Good morning, good morning. First of all, thank you, Brother Lance, once again for the opportunity and the privilege. And one question I want to start with, it's got nothing to do with the sermon, but how does it feel for each and every one of you to know that you and I have access to the King of Kings this morning? Yeah. If Donald Trump would walk in here, every one of you, or whoever is a great leader in your eyes, you would be ecstatic. But when you talk about the King of Kings, julle is maar flou. So this morning, I've got a short message, a long intro, or a story like I did last time. So on the screen, you'll see, you can't see it very nicely, but there's actually a policewoman there. I think what gives it away is the blue lights. It's making a bit of a blue tint there. So this was Warrant Officer Karin Schultz. By the time when I took that photo, she was still a sergeant. And this was one weekend I got to work with her, and at that time, Captain Jonker. He's now a colonel, like our Colonel van Heerden here. I had the privilege to work with him a couple of weekends. This was one weekend. And what made this so cool was during this weekend, they actually smuggled me into Tembisa during an operation. I was not allowed to be there. So Metro would do roadblocks, and the police would go in, and they would look for suspects, wanted suspects, and firearms, and drugs, and stolen goods. But on this specific night, we came in from Tembisa, we ate. Police members and frontliners will know, medics and firefighters, they'll know that all of us, every group has got like a local hangout place, whether it's like a local food place. So this night we ate food on the bonnet of the van, and Karin asked the captain, yes, Captain, because there was a lot of food still left, and she's like, kan ons nie net hierdie kos vir hierdie straatmense gaan vat nie. She loved them so much. I can remember once we drove, and she always told the captain, Captain, stop it gou. And he's like, yeah, nie alweer nie. So then he'll stop, and then she'll call the person. I wouldn't even see the person. She'll call him close and say, yes, hoe gaan het? And he'll say, no, good. And then she'll ask, wanneer het jy uitgekom? I say, nee, laas week. Hoe gaan het met jou ma? Nee, goed. En hoe gaan het met die voet? She knew the people off by heart. And when we'll drive away, I'll ask her, where was this person? She says, no, about a month or two ago, I arrested him for drugs. But they loved us so much. So here she gave food to some street people, and her and Captain Jonker at that stage, you can see the ranks there, they would actually out of their own pockets buy blankets for street people. Even the ones they arrest, when they come out, they'll help them and try and get them. So on this weekend, so this is actually where we come to the message. On this weekend, they took me to a brothel. Not for me personally, but I went with them. They looked once again for drugs and firearms, and if there were any characters there that needed to be arrested. And one thing I will never forget is when we walked in there, she told me, Karin said, there are men from an affluent neighborhood that come there and obviously cheat on their wives, and they'll take the STDs and the emotional fallout and the filth that's associated with this, they'll take it back to the unsuspected families. So behind these curtains are areas where the clients can see drugged up prostitutes, because no one is nuchter when they are busy doing that. Just to show you a couple of, this is in the kitchen, full of condoms. The sink is full of condoms. This is where you can make breakfast in the morning, I guess. And I think your subscription allows you to use the facilities in this brothel. So this is like legit. This is how it looked inside there. And then there's Sergeant Karin Schultz busy going through. I think they made this like a dump inside the brothel. So on that, during that weekend, we drove, and I sat in front because I couldn't get in and out with my athletic physique and a bulletproof. I couldn't get in and out of the back of the van. So Karin, once again, Kaptein, stop het gou. Ek is seker dit is, I think it's Mishka daai. And he stopped, and behind me, I just saw this girl with this woes hair, like you could see all the hair when daar was hare was gesny, maar nie mooi gesny nie. Out of the shadow she came, and she spoke to Karin behind me. And Karin also the same question, so when did you come out? Are you still on drugs? And she said, this lady, I think her name was Mishka, she said, yeah, I'm off the hardcore stuff, I only use lollies now. So from that down, we spoke of her as lolly, because lolly is a crystal meth that you smoke in these lolly pipes. And to her, that's not hardcore, but that's actually very hardcore. That's actually a drug that can make you schizophrenic. But Lolly, then she spoke to Karin and she said, no, this was a prostitute. This is a prostitute. And she was very well spoken, like her word choices, it's not like what I sound. Sy het eintlik hoërgraad Engels. And Karin arrested her also for drugs a few months or so ago. She was actually in prison. She wasn't just in the holding cells. Karin told me she did that to get her off the street, to get her off drugs. But obviously in prison, they have their way. So and the reason why her hair was cut like that was because the cellmates were jealous of her hair. She actually had nice hair. It was dirty and unkempt, but I mean, you could see, sy het eintlik mooi hare, sy hoort nie daar nie. So they were jealous of her, and then they said, no, you've got lice, so they cut her hair. She had to give them her meat, if they got meat, to protect her so that they won't abuse her or bully her or whatever. And she did all the cellmates' laundry for cigarettes. She didn't worry about food, she wanted cigarettes. So a few years later, I did an interview with Lolly. This was what they called a honshi. It's not a house or a panduk or whatever. They called it a honshi. So Karin would ask when she took me there, she's like, yeah, Lolly, I see you got a new honshi, and how is it living? And Karin was really a phenomenal policewoman. And Lolly didn't service her clients there. She would, if she got a client, they would go to a guest house. She would, book the guest house. And I asked her during the interview, how do you cope with this line of work? I mean, it's very traumatic. It's the things that we are not made for it. And she said drugs. She's high when she's with a client, and she never opens her eyes while she's busy with a client. She will never look them in the eye. She always closes her eyes. So, and then I had a great honor of having a photo taken with Lolly after the interview. And the crazy thing is, this is how she looks a few years later. So Karin Schultz got admitted to hospital for a lung disease or something. And then all the street people would stop the captain and say, waar is? And at that time she was a warrant officer, adjutant officer. So I've even have a voice note of one of the street people that the colonel recorded where he'd say, Achu, waar is jy? Wanneer kom jy terug? Achu, ons mis jou. So I thought he was sneezing, but then she said, no, it's actually adjutant officer. Okay. So with half a picture of what the world of prostitutes look like, I want to introduce you to another prostitute from the Bible, Rahab. Now, I said to you, Landi, I don't think they would have looked like that in the Bible times, because they were not, daar was nie 5-ster hotelle in goed daai tyd nie, so ek dink, hulle was maar net so vuil soos wat Lolly hulle was. En dis hoekom ek juist, want ek meen daar is bordele en goed soos The Grand en Chivalry en al daai goed. Ek het nog net gehoor van dit. Wat al die fasiliteite het, so die girls lyk baie mooi en skoon en al daai goed, het ek ook net gehoor. Maar ek dink die Bybel sê, sorry if I mix my language, but I don't think that the prostitutes look quite like that. If they do, I would have understand why they were busy. But this Rahab was a prostitute. She was a Canaanite prostitute, so she wasn't like in good favor with God. The God we serve was actually the God of the Israelites. These were the enemy. They were the enemy of the Israelis. But what she did was she hid 2 spies from Israel in her house. Because they were saying that was just when they entered the promised land. This was one of the obstacles they had in the promised land. I'm actually just looking for affirmation. Jy moet net sê ja, ek is reg. So as the Israelites went into the promised land, this was one of the obstacles to get into Jericho. But Jericho was heavily fortified. It was like actually impenetrable. So Israel sent in 2 spies, and Rahab actually hid them in her house from the authorities and stuff. And in Joshua 2 verse 8, ek gaan nou gou vir julle hier kom die cool stuff. In Joshua 2 verse 8 till 21, we read, before the spies lay down for the night, she went up to the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites, east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. So they already had a reputation. This Israel and their God had a tremendous reputation. En as jy hierdie tipe goed lees en gaan dan besef jy ons dien 'n hardcore God. When we heard of it, our hearts melted and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I've shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father, mother, and my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save them, that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us this land. So she led them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. This was also a strategic move, because foreigners would come and they would overnight by her and things like that. Now she had said to them, go to the hills so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourself there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. Because the pursuers actually came to her house and said, people saw them here. And she said, yeah, they were here, but they left. So the pursuers actually went outside. Hulle het gaan soek vir die mense. And she said to them, just stay here for 3 days. Just lie low for 3 days. By that time, they will be back, and then the road will be clear for you. The men said to her, this oath you made, I swear, will not be binding on us, unless when we enter the land, you have tied the scarlet cord on the window. Through which you let us down, and unless you have brought your father and mother and your brothers and sisters into your house. If anyone goes outside your house into the street, his blood will be on his own head. We will not be responsible. As for anyone who is in the house with you, his blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on him. So there they say, if the people are here, if you commit, if you put the scarlet cord in your window, jy is uitgelos word. You will be saved. But also, and here comes the cool part, further in Joshua 6 verse 20 to 25, we read, when the trumpet sounded, I don't know if you guys know the story of Jericho, of how it fell. If you don't, I'm only giving you snippets, it's actually a very powerful story. Do yourself a favor and go read it. When the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So every man charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men, women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Hoe hardcore kan jy kry dat jou God vir jou hierdie oorwinning op so 'n wy gee? Joshua said to the two men who had spied out the land, go into the prostitute's house and bring her out, and all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her. So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father, mother, brothers, and sisters, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burnt the whole city and everything in it, but they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho. And as she lives, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. Okay, obviously nie tot vandag nie, dit is 'n hele ruk terug. So laat ek die ander gedeelte kry. Sorry. Okay, so the significance, obviously I told you Jericho was a heavily fortified city, and God did this amazing thing. And because of the scarlet cord that hung out of Rahab's window, her family got saved, and she got saved. So, but as worshippers of the King of Kings this morning, it all comes together by this verse. And this is actually where the message takes its shape. In Matthew 1, we find the genealogy of Jesus. So that's like die een behoort aan die een was getroud aan die een gave a child to this one. So this is the whole lineage of the Messiah that we get to read for free. Alhoewel Bybels baie duur is deesdae, het ek in Koem gesien. Salmon, so in verse 5, we see Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was none other than Rahab. So this prostitute became part of the lineage of the Messiah, the King of Kings. Soos ek hoor nie dat julle soos opgewonde raak oor hierdie goed. Hierdie is soos crazy stuff. Dit is soos en dalk is julle nie opgewonde nie, because you don't understand the significance of this. When I look at your faces, I don't see excitement, I don't see wonder, I don't see this Canaanite prostitute, a person that according to a social construct wouldn't even be mentioned in the same sentence as a king, now becomes part of the lineage of Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. If you want, you can give a hand of applause to this brilliant. What this means to you today is that not one of you is out of reach of God's grace and in redemption, especially when your faith is put into action. Who said amen? You can say it again. We can give God all the glory, because this is so exciting stuff. I think it was last week or so, just a side note, I made a video where I spoke about a spec sheet. Every product you buy has got a spec sheet. and it tells you the limitations, what it's made for, all those things. And if I, as Pierre Wheeler, had to take the spec sheet, what's written about me on paper, a lack of qualification, a lack of experience, a car whose drive shaft is broken, I'm not supposed to stand where I am standing today. I'm not supposed to have what I have. I don't deserve an amazing wife. I don't deserve a lot of things that I have. But God does not care about your spec sheet. God does not care about your opinion about yourself. In John, he actually says, Jesus says, I don't care about a man's testimony. So he doesn't care about a man's testimony about himself. He doesn't care about a man's testimony about you, about you, about you, about you. He doesn't care about it. Jou spec sheet maak nie vir hom saak nie. En dit is om terug te kom by hierdie Scarlet Cord. Dit wat ek by God geleer het, I can say safely that I don't care where you are in your life today, whether you are in a proverbial brothel of life. You feel dirty, you feel betrayed, feel worthless, feel insignificant because of what you've done. I'm here to tell you that when you tie this scarlet cord to the window of your heart and you make a commitment to God, it does not matter what filthy situation you are in. It does not matter what your background is. It does not matter what your past is. It does not matter if the walls are busy crumbling around you. That scarlet cord can make you part of an inheritance of the King of Kings. Hey, nou kom ons by. Soos julle kan excited wees. Hierdie is soos besef julle nie dat ons wat hierso sit is goed genoeg. Besef julle dit? Besef julle dat elkeen van ons wat hier sit vanmôre is goed genoeg om deel van 'n erfgenaam van die konings van konings te wees. En dit waarmee saamkom. Dankie oom Hannes. Dankie. Wonderlik. So take this today. The scarlet cord emphasizes that our faith should translate into tangible obedience and trust in God's commands and promises. And when you hang that scarlet cord in your heart's window, you can become part of that lineage. You and your family can get saved by the commitment you make to God. Almal het nie nodig om nou saam te stem nie. Ek dink is Raab se familie het geweet waarvoor hulle self inlaat. Ek weet nie hoe sy hulle in die huis gehou het nie, maar hulle daar gebly. So Rahab had to put something on the line when she hung that scarlet cord. She had to make a choice. En een van die besluite wat sy moes maak was betrayal of her people and city. From the perspective of Jericho, Rahab was a traitor. She turned her back on her own people and allied herself with the invading enemy. This would have meant social ostracization and condemnation from her community. If her actions were known to them before the city fell, if her betrayal was known before the city fell, she would have been killed, and her family would have had no protection during the fall of Jericho. But she trusted the God of the Israelites, although I'm sure at that time she didn't have any guarantees. Onthou, sy is die vyand. Sy ken nie vir God nie. Sy het nie 'n verhouding nie. Sy het net gehoor, julle God het hierdie goed gedoen. Julle God het, so ons is bang vir julle. Ons almal moenie dink ons het nie die rumors gehoor nie. Ons hou Facebook dop. Julle God het hierdie en hierdie en hierdie gedoen. En so sy het redelik baie op die lyn gesit, op die spel gesit, vir 'n God wat sy nie gedien het nie. So hoeveel te meer, weer eens, julle raak excited nie, julle dien al reeds hierdie God. Hoor julle wat ek sê? Julle dien hierdie koning, julle dien die skepper van hemel en aarde, alreeds. Julle is nie 'n vreemde prostituut wat net gehoor het op Twitter, op Facebook van hierdie God, this God of wonders nie. Julle dien hom alreeds. So today I want to tell you without any doubt that you will have to make a choice. This will cost you something. It might cost you to lose friends that don't love God. It will definitely require you to turn away from the things that God hates. To stay inside and pray when the world is having a feast. But with that scarlet cord hanging in the window of your heart, you will be saved. You will be freed from oppression, anxiety, and you will live in victory. So in exchange for these immense costs and risks, Rahab gained salvation for herself and her entire family. a new life and a place among the people of God. God became her God. Dis nie meer julle God nie, dis nou my God, dis my Vader, dis my koning. En ek meen, ons het nie eens nodig gehad om spies weg te steek nie. Nie een van ons het nodig gehad om spies weg te steek, om 'n gevaar te wees, om 'n erfgenaam, ons is reeds erfgename. Inclusion in the lineage of Jesus Christ, forever remembered as a woman of great faith. I read in the week there's this, like you get the Hall of Fame, there's actually a Hall of Faith where all these great guys, ek is bly ek is reg, nee. Thank you, Brother Lance. There's a Hall of Faith where all these, soos hierdie groot geeste, hulle name is daarin opgeskryf. En hierdie prostitute from Canaanite, this Canaanite prostitute, her name is in that Hall of Faith. So listen to this quote. So while the scarlet cord was a simple physical object, the faith and obedience it represented demanded a radical and costly commitment from Rahab. It was a choice that altered the entire course of her life and her family's future. I want to close this morning's message with a final thought. True faith is not passive. It leads to action and obedience. In a modern world often characterized by intellectual assent without corresponding action, Rahab's story reminds us that our faith should translate into tangible steps and obedience to God. Hang that scarlet cord in the window of your heart. You have opportunities in this ministry to become active, to grow with us, and to advance the kingdom of God. Lastly, the message is simple. Hang the scarlet cord in your heart's window. Turn away from the things that God hates and become an heir to the Messiah's bloodline. So this morning,